times to say great audience, and he couldn't because it was so goofy. And yet, that's what Elvis got away with it. If you're the Queen or Elvis, you can ignore my presentation. If you're anywhere south of the Queen or Elvis, you have to follow the rules. So, I asked you to write down 3 quotation-marked sentences. What was the second one? You can tell they were passionate. You can tell they were passionate. What did she mean? I could tell. But she said, you can tell. Did she not know who she was? Did she think she was somebody else? Did she think she was a group? Why did she say that? Now, you might say, well, some people confuse I and you. They're kind of both short words. No, you don't confuse them. When you mean to say I, you inadvertently say you. But it's not because you can't tell them apart. And the proof is, when you want to say you always say it correctly. When you want to say you never say I by mistake. No one ever says, I love I. Nobody says that. Nobody, when they mean to say you, says I by mistake. I love I. Do I want to go to a restaurant? Like, nobody does that. And so it's not because you can't figure out the difference between I and you. And it's only English that allows such silliness. There's no other language. There's no other language that allows you to put in the wrong pronoun. You can't do it in French. You can't do it in German. There's no language that allows that error. Only English, heaven knows why. So, here's the bottom line. I'm going to summarize it in 4 words. You may want to write these 4 words on your aha page. I speak to, what's the last word? You. I speak to you. Is this right or wrong at the end of a break? Take your seats. Come on, everyone. Take your seats. Right or wrong? Wrong. There's 2 errors. What are they? Everyone and seats. How many seats are you going to take? The reason that nobody comes in is because the speaker isn't speaking to you. Everyone, take your seats. Well, might as well keep talking. They're not talking to me. They're talking about everyone else. Here's my favorite. I was in Dubai recently. I was giving a speech, and the master of ceremony says, Raymond, I'm sorry. Cell phones have been going off all day. I tell them at the beginning of every speaker, turn off your darn cell phones, and they just don't do it. I said, well, that's because you never told anyone to turn off their cell phones. Oh, I do it every time, every single time. I said, no, you don't. No, you don't. Watch. And I walked up on stage, and I said, put up your dominant hand. If you're a righty, put up your right hand. If you're a lefty, put up your left hand. Take your dominant hand and move it around until it finds your cell phone. I'll give you some clues. Could be on your hip, in your pocket, in your purse. Just find it and hold it up. Take your non-dominant hand and turn it off. Good, very good. Now put it back where it was. And I walked off the stage and I said, there'll be no cell phones ringing. He said, I could have done that. I said, no, you couldn't. Because you wanted to speak to everybody. Yeah, of course, I wanted everybody to turn off their cell phones. I know. That's why they didn't. He spoke to everyone to get all the cell phones off, and nobody turned any cell phones off, or almost nobody, because nobody felt spoken to. I spoke to first person singular. Each person in the room knew I was speaking to that particular. Oh, I'm a righty. I'm going to hold up my right hand. Thanks for caring. I'm a righty. Sometimes speakers try to follow my advice and still screw up. They'll say, I want each and every one of you. And I said, didn't I speak to first First person singular. I said, no, watch. I want each and every one of you to take good notes. That doesn't make sense. A waiter doesn't come up to you and say, I want each and every one of you to order. That doesn't make sense. Nobody talks like that unless you're really speaking to everyone. Oh, by the way, waitresses are the worst. Waitresses couldn't care less. Waitresses have nothing to do or they're very busy. That's a kind of a question. Waitresses have nothing to do or they're very busy. The answer is very busy. I'll try it again. Waitresses have nothing to do or they're very busy. Very busy. Good. Thank you. But they know in order to increase their tips, they have to pretend that they care. But they can't afford to actually have a conversation because they're very busy. That's right. So here's what they should say if they really did care. I'm glad you ordered that steak. Is it done the way you want? Great. And it's actually the best steak that our chef makes. Like I told you, are you enjoying it? Wonderful. Great. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you want some HP sauce or anything? No? Great. Thank you. Thank you. And then she would go to the next person, the next person. But that's not what they do. What do they do when they come to your table? What do they say? How's everything? You know what? When I'm feeling like when I'm in kind of a jerky mood, I don't do this all the time, and it has to be when my wife's not there. When they say, how's everything? I say, that's too big a question. Are you including the war in Afghanistan? I don't even know where to start. And they say, no, I mean, how's everyone's food? I say, I can tell you about my food. Did you want to know about my food? Because if you want to know about everyone's food, you'll have to take a poll of each person and talk to them. And finally, they just walk away saying, where is this guy coming from? Because they really don't care. They say, how's everything? And then they'll wait for one person to say fine, and then they walk away. Like they'll go up, do you want water? If one person says no, they leave. Maybe the other people wanted water. But if one person says no, that's good enough for them because everyone's the same and they're all nothing. So, speaker kindergarten. I made $1 million. I was actually not that much better than the other speakers. All speakers had great content. All speakers were highly polished. Maybe I was somewhat better, but I wasn't that much better. The average speaker was taking in about $100,000 per speech. I brought in $1 million. I wasn't 10 times better in content. My product wasn't 10 times better. But I spoke to you, and that was the difference. The people in the back row could feel it. And I had no eye contact. And no one knew what my product is, because I don't tell you about my product. So no one knew what the product was. But they felt I was speaking to them. That's the secret. That's how I make millions of dollars a year. That's how I make $1 million in a speech, once.